Imagine saving a life and letting it go, believing you'll never see it again. Now imagine that life refusing to forget you, returning to the exact spot where you met, year after year, waiting. Not once, not twice, but every single year for over a decade. This is what happened when a woman named Chen found a dying seal pup tangled in fishing wire on a remote beach in Northern California, nursed it back to health, and released it into the vast Pacific Ocean. What she didn't know was that she'd created a bond so powerful it would defy everything marine biologists thought they understood about seal memory, navigation, and emotional attachment. Hey everyone! Before we dive into this absolutely incredible journey, drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from. I love connecting with our amazing Animal Hero Moments community around the world. And if stories about the unbreakable bonds between humans and wildlife move you, smash that like button and subscribe. Every single one of you helps us share these powerful moments that prove animals remember, feel, and love in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew. Trust me, you need to see where this story goes. It was March 2011, and Chen, a marine biology graduate student conducting coastal ecosystem research near Point Reyes, California, was walking along an isolated stretch of beach known locally as Sculptured Beach, a dramatic landscape of sea caves and rock formations rarely visited due to difficult access, requiring a steep 2-mile hike. The morning fog was just beginning to lift when she heard something that made her stop. A desperate, high-pitched cry cutting through the sound of crashing waves. Following the sound, Sarah discovered a seal pup approximately 3 months old, severely entangled in monofilament fishing line and commercial-grade netting. The wire had cut deep into the pup's neck and right front flipper, creating wounds that were clearly infected, the surrounding flesh swollen and discolored. The pup was emaciated, dehydrated, and based on the debris accumulation around the entanglement site, had likely been trapped for at least 3 to 4 days. By all conventional assessments, this animal should have already died. Sarah faced an impossible decision in that moment: attempt a rescue that could fail and potentially cause more suffering, or walk away and let nature take its course. What she chose to do next would create a connection that would span years, challenge scientific understanding, and prove that some bonds transcend the boundaries we draw between species. Harbor seals, the species Sarah identified the pup as belonging to, are remarkably resilient marine mammals found along the Pacific coast from Baja California to Alaska. Pups are born on beaches and rocky shores, spending their first weeks nursing and learning to swim before eventually becoming independent hunters, capable of diving over 1,500 feet deep and holding their breath for up to 30 minutes. But this resilience has limits. Entanglement in fishing gear is one of the leading causes of seal mortality, with thousands dying annually along the California coast alone. Sarah had training in marine mammal handling from her graduate program, but protocol was clear. Injured wildlife should be reported to authorized rehabilitation centers, not handled by individuals. The nearest facility was the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito, over 40 miles away, and Sarah's cell phone had no signal in this remote location. By the time she hiked back to her car, drove to signal range, contacted authorities, and they dispatched a team, this pup would almost certainly be dead. She made her choice. Using a multi-tool from her research kit, Sarah carefully began cutting away the fishing line, working slowly to avoid causing additional trauma or startling the already terrified pup into a panic response that could worsen the injuries. The process took nearly 45 minutes, each cut revealing more damage, more infection, more evidence of prolonged suffering. When the last piece of netting fell away, Sarah could see the full extent of the wounds, deep lacerations encircling the neck like a grotesque collar, and a partially severed right front flipper that would leave a permanent scar. The pup was too weak to return to the ocean immediately. Sarah knew this violated every wildlife protocol she'd been taught, but she also knew that releasing a severely dehydrated, malnourished animal into the surf was effectively a death sentence. She made a second controversial decision. She would provide emergency stabilization before release, even though it meant extended human contact that could potentially habituate the pup and compromise its wild instincts. Over the next 6 hours on that beach, Sarah created a makeshift recovery area, using her rain jacket as a wind barrier, cleaned the wounds with sterilized seawater, and allowed the pup to rest while regaining minimal strength. She named her Luna, for the crescent-shaped scar that the neck wound would inevitably leave, visible even after healing. As the afternoon sun began its descent toward the Pacific horizon, Luna's breathing steadied, her eyes became more alert, and Sarah knew the moment of release had arrived. The release was both hopeful and heartbreaking. Sarah carried Luna to the waterline, placed her gently in the shallow surf, and stepped back. For several long seconds, the pup didn't move, just stared at Sarah with dark, liquid eyes that seemed to hold far more awareness than a wild animal should possess. Then, instinct took over. Luna turned toward the ocean, struggled through the shallow water on her injured flipper, and dove beneath a wave. Sarah watched until the small head disappeared completely into the vast Pacific, feeling the strange emptiness that comes from saving a life you'll never see again. Or so she thought. Sarah returned to Sculptured Beach 3 weeks later as part of her regular coastal survey work, not expecting anything except data collection on tide pool ecosystems and kelp forest health. But as she descended the steep trail to the beach, something unusual caught her eye. A single harbor seal hauled out on the exact rock formation where she'd found Luna entangled. As Sarah approached cautiously, maintaining the recommended 50-yard distance for wildlife observation, the seal turned, revealing an unmistakable crescent-shaped scar on its neck. Luna had returned. At this point, Sarah assumed it was coincidence. Seals often returned to familiar haul-out spots, and Sculptured Beach, while remote to humans, was likely part of Luna's natal territory. She documented the sighting in her research journal, took photographs of the distinctive scarring for identification purposes, and continued her work, though she couldn't shake the feeling that the young seal was watching her specifically, not just exhibiting normal wariness of a human presence. But coincidence became pattern when Sarah returned in May, then June, then July. Each time Luna was present, hauled out on the same rocks, and each time she exhibited behavior that veteran marine mammal researchers would later describe as highly atypical for wild seals. Instead of fleeing when Sarah appeared, Luna would remain stationary, occasionally vocalizing, soft grunts and murmurs that seals typically reserve for mother-pup communication or breeding interactions. By August 2011, Sarah began systematically documenting these encounters, recognizing that she was witnessing something potentially significant. She contacted Dr. James Sterling, a leading harbor seal behavioral ecologist at UC Santa Cruz, sharing her photographs, video footage, and detailed observation notes. Dr. Sterling's initial response was skeptical. Wild seals don't form lasting attachments to individual humans, he explained. What Sarah was interpreting as recognition was likely just a seal that had become habituated to human presence and associated Sarah's visits with the absence of threat. But Dr. Sterling's skepticism wavered when Sarah showed him something remarkable. Time-stamped trail camera footage she'd installed to monitor wildlife activity. The cameras revealed that Luna would arrive at Sculptured Beach within hours of Sarah's visits, sometimes before Sarah even descended the trail. On occasions when Sarah didn't visit for several weeks, Luna's presence at the beach decreased significantly. The correlation was too consistent to dismiss as random haul-out behavior. The most compelling evidence came in December 2011, During California's gray whale migration season, when dozens of researchers, photographers, and whale watchers descended on Point Reyes beaches. Sarah, busy with end-of-semester obligations, hadn't visited Sculptured Beach in over a month. But when she finally returned on December 18th, something extraordinary happened that would be captured on a handheld video camera and later analyzed frame by frame by marine behavioral specialists. As Sarah crested the ridge overlooking the beach, she could see approximately 15-20 people scattered across the sand and rocks. An unusual crowd for this typically isolated location, drawn by reports of grey whale sightings close to shore. And there, hauled out on the familiar rock formation, was Luna, identifiable by her crescent scar. Sarah descended the trail, blending into the crowd, making no effort to draw attention or approach the seal. What happened next defied conventional understanding of seal cognition and sensory discrimination. Luna, who had remained still despite the presence of multiple humans, suddenly became alert. Her head swiveled, scanning the beach, and then, captured clearly on Sarah's camera, the seal's gaze locked directly onto Sarah, who was standing among a group of 7 other people approximately 80 yards away. Luna vocalized loudly, a sound distinct from normal seal communication, and began moving across the rocks toward Sarah's position. The other beachgoers, thrilled by what they assumed was a curious seal approaching, began pulling out cameras and moving toward Luna. But the seal ignored them completely, navigating around and between people, her focus unwavering until she reached a position roughly 15 feet from Sarah, closer than wild seals typically tolerate to any human, and stopped. She vocalized again, a softer sound this time, and simply waited. Dr. Sterling, after reviewing Sarah's video footage and conducting his own observational visits to Sculptured Beach, published a preliminary case study in the journal Marine Mammal Science in early 2012, titled Individual Recognition and Persistent Social Bonding in a Wild Harbor Seal. Wait. The paper documented Luna's behavior patterns across 8 months and presented evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions about pinniped cognition, the capacity for individual recognition across time, and the formation of cross-species social bonds previously thought limited to more cognitively complex species like dolphins and great apes. The research attracted international attention. Marine mammal scientists from institutions across North America began requesting permission to observe Luna, turning Sculptured Beach into an unexpected laboratory for studying seal behavior and cognition. Strict protocols were established. No feeding, no touching, no attempts to elicit responses, only passive observation to avoid habituating the seal beyond what had already occurred through her bond with Sarah. What they discovered was extraordinary. Luna's returns to Sculptured Beach followed a distinct pattern that correlated specifically with Sarah's visits, not with seasonal cycles, food availability, or other environmental factors. Using photo identification and GPS tracking after successfully attaching a temporary tracking tag during a veterinary health check, researchers confirmed that Luna maintained a normal seal life between visits, hunting in kelp forests, hauling out at various locations along the coast, even interacting with other seals in typical social behaviors. But every 20-35 days, Luna would return to Sculptured Beach and wait. The waiting period would extend if Sarah didn't appear, with Luna sometimes remaining at the beach for up to 4 consecutive days before returning to her normal ranging behavior. The implication was staggering. Luna had developed what researchers termed anticipatory site fidelity based on social bonding. Essentially, she was keeping an appointment schedule with a specific human. The scientific community split into camps. Some researchers argued Luna's behavior represented an extreme case of habituation and operant conditioning, Sarah had saved her, so Sarah was associated with safety, making the beach a psychological refuge. Others, including Dr. Sterling, proposed something more radical, that Luna had formed a genuine emotional bond, what in human terms would be called gratitude or affection, and that her returns represented intentional social behavior rather than conditioned response. Sarah found herself at the center of an ethical dilemma. Should she stop visiting Sculptured Beach to allow Luna to return to fully wild behavior? Or would disappearing potentially cause psychological distress to an animal who had clearly developed a specific attachment? Marine mammal rehabilitation protocols typically demand minimizing human contact to prevent habituation, but those protocols assume rescuers won't encounter the same animal again. Luna had rendered those assumptions obsolete. Dr. Emily Nakamura, a wildlife veterinarian and ethicist at the Marine Mammal Center, proposed a middle path. Continue the relationship, but document it rigorously, establishing Luna as a unique case study in human-wildlife interaction. We can't undo what's happened, Dr. Nakamura argued, but we can learn from it. Luna is offering us a window into seal cognition and emotional capacity that we've never had access to before. To reject that opportunity out of adherence to rigid protocol seems like a greater ethical failure than acknowledging that sometimes nature surprises us. The decision was made to continue monitored observations, with Sarah maintaining her regular visits but following strict guidelines. No physical contact unless Luna initiated and it was necessary for safety, no feeding or provision of resources, no publicity that might draw crowds and disturb the site. The research team would document everything, creating an unprecedented longitudinal study of individual recognition and social bonding in a wild pinniped. Years passed. Luna matured from juvenile to adult, developing the robust body and darker coloring typical of adult harbor seals. Her crescent scar remained visible, a permanent marker of the trauma that had initiated this remarkable bond. She survived the normal hazards of seal life, predation attempts by great white sharks, competition for haul-out space, the challenge of finding sufficient prey in warming ocean waters. And through it all, she kept returning. 2012, 2013, 2014, each year, multiple visits, the pattern unchanging. By 2015, the case study had expanded into a comprehensive research project involving multiple institutions, with Luna becoming one of the most thoroughly documented individual seals in marine science. Her behavior had sparked broader research into pinniped cognition, with scientists beginning to recognize that these animals possessed far more complex emotional and social intelligence than previously acknowledged. But the most profound moment was yet to come, the event that would transform Luna from a scientific curiosity into a global phenomenon, the moment when her loyalty would be tested in a way that would prove, beyond any doubt, that what she felt for Sarah transcended simple conditioning or habituation. In March 2016, exactly 5 years after the initial rescue, Sarah suffered a severe hiking accident on a different section of the Point Reyes coastline. She fell approximately 20 feet from a crumbling cliff edge, sustaining multiple fractures to her left leg and ankle that required surgery and extensive rehabilitation. The recovery process would keep her away from Sculptured Beach for nearly 4 months, the longest absence since Luna's pattern of returns had begun. Dr. Sterling and his research team continued monitoring the beach throughout Sarah's absence. What they documented would become one of the most cited examples of animal behavioral persistence in marine mammal literature. Luna's visits increased in frequency and duration. Instead of arriving every 20-35 days, she appeared every 7 to 10 days. And instead of waiting for 2 to 4 days, she would remain at the site for up to a week before departing. Her vocalizations changed, becoming more frequent and carrying what acoustic analysis would later describe as higher stress markers. The research team faced another ethical dilemma. Should they inform Luna, somehow, that Sarah wasn't coming? Could they even communicate such abstract information to a seal? Dr. Nakamura proposed bringing an article of Sarah's clothing to the beach to provide olfactory continuity, but the team ultimately decided against intervention, maintaining their observational protocol despite the emotional difficulty of watching Luna's increasingly persistent waiting. Sarah, learning of Luna's behavior during her recovery, felt a profound sense of guilt mixed with wonder. "I never asked for this bond," she told Dr. Sterling during a hospital visit, "but now that it exists, I feel a responsibility to it. Luna isn't just a research subject to me anymore. I don't even know what to call it. A friend? That sounds absurd when talking about a wild seal. But what else do you call a being who waits for you, who recognizes you across years, who changes her behavior because you're absent?" In July 2016, Sarah returned to Sculptured Beach for the first time since her accident, still using a walking cane for stability on the steep trail. The research team had arranged to document the reunion with multiple cameras, thermal imaging, and acoustic recording equipment. What they captured would be watched over 50 million times across various platforms within the first month of its eventual release. As Sarah descended the trail, Luna was already present, hauled out on her usual rock formation. But the moment Sarah came into view, still over 100 yards away, Luna's reaction was immediate and unprecedented. She entered the water and began swimming directly towards Sarah's position on the beach, vocalizing continuously in a pattern researchers had never recorded before. The acoustic signature combined elements of mother-pup contact calls, greeting behaviors, and what could only be described as excitement. Luna hauled out at the waterline less than 10 feet from where Sarah stood, closer than she had ever voluntarily approached before. For several minutes, seal and human simply looked at each other, separated by a boundary both seemed to recognize. Sarah knowing she shouldn't touch, Luna understanding some invisible line despite her clear desire for proximity. Then Luna did something that shattered Dr. Sterling's remaining skepticism. She turned her head, exposing her neck where the crescent scar was most visible, and remained still in what animal behaviorists recognize as a presentation display, showing a vulnerable area as a sign of trust. Sarah, with tears streaming down her face, spoke softly, "I know, Luna. I remember too. I'm sorry I was gone so long." Udreet. Whether the seal understood the words or just the tone, Luna responded with a soft vocalization, a sound the research team had never recorded, carrying what acoustic analysis would describe as low stress markers and high affiliation indicators. The reunion lasted approximately 45 minutes, with Luna remaining at the waterline, Sarah standing at a respectful distance, and the two simply being together. No feeding occurred, no physical contact beyond Luna's initial approach, just presence, the fundamental building block of relationship across all species. When Sarah finally left, Luna watched her ascend the trail until she disappeared from view, then returned to the ocean, not to leave, but to hunt nearby, staying in the general area rather than immediately departing, as was her previous pattern. Dr. Sterling's analysis of the reunion, published in Animal Cognition Journal, concluded, "The behavioral evidence suggests Luna's attachment to Sarah Chen exhibits characteristics consistent with individual recognition, emotional memory, and voluntary social bonding. The persistence of behavior across 5 years, the modification of patterns during prolonged absence, and the distinctive reunion response all indicate cognitive and emotional complexity that challenges our existing frameworks for understanding pinniped social intelligence." The academic language couldn't capture what those who witnessed the reunion understood on a more fundamental level. This was love, expressed in the only ways a seal could express it. Through loyalty, through waiting, through recognition that transcended species boundaries and conventional understanding of wild animal behavior. Luna's story transformed from scientific curiosity to cultural phenomenon in late 2016, when Sarah and Dr. Sterling's team agreed to controlled media coverage. The decision was controversial within the research community. Some argued it would inevitably lead to harmful tourism pressure and potentially endanger Luna through increased human presence. Others, including Sarah, believed the story's educational value outweighed the risks if properly managed. The resulting documentary short, The Seal Who Waits, released by National Geographic in collaboration with the UC Santa Cruz research team, was viewed over 150 million times globally within its first year. More importantly, it sparked a fundamental shift in public perception of marine mammals, away from viewing them as cute but simple creatures toward recognizing them as cognitively complex beings capable of individual personalities, memories, and emotional attachments. Point Reyes National Seashore, in partnership with the Marine Mammal Center, implemented strict new protocols for sculptured beach. Access was limited to permitted researchers and a small number of supervised educational groups. Viewing Luna became possible only through a live stream camera system installed at a distance that wouldn't disturb her, allowing global audiences to witness her returns without physical presence that could stress or habituate her further. The educational impact exceeded all expectations. Schools across North America incorporated Luna's story into curricula about marine biology, animal cognition, and conservation ethics. The Marine Mammal Center reported a 340% increase in volunteer applications, with many citing Luna as their inspiration. Donations to seal rehabilitation and ocean conservation programs surged, generating an estimated $7 million in additional funding for marine mammal protection efforts along the California coast alone. The scientific legacy proved equally significant. Luna's case inspired over 30 research papers investigating various aspects of pinniped cognition, social bonding, and human-wildlife interactions. Researchers identified similar cases of individual recognition and persistent sight fidelity in other marine mammals, suggesting Luna wasn't unique, but rather representative of a capacity that had been overlooked due to methodological limitations and assumptions about animal emotional complexity. Dr. Alexandra Horowitz, a cognitive scientist studying animal consciousness, used Luna's case as a centerpiece in her book, Beyond Human: The Rich Inner Lives of Other Species. She wrote, "Luna forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about how we've systematically underestimated animal minds. If a seal can remember an individual human across years, can recognize that person among crowds, can alter behavior in response to their absence, what does that tell us about our responsibility toward all animals who might possess similar capacities?" The ethical implications reverberated through wildlife management policy. California's marine mammal protection guidelines were revised to include provisions for extraordinary cases of human-wildlife bonding, acknowledging that rigid non-contact protocols might not serve animal welfare when individual relationships have already formed. Several other states adopted similar framework adjustments, recognizing that nature sometimes defies our categories and protocols. Sarah completed her doctorate using Luna as her dissertation focus, earning her PhD with a thesis titled Persistent Cross-Species Social Bonding in Harbor Seals: Implications for Cognitive and Emotional Capacity. She was hired as a research professor at UC Berkeley's Marine Science Institute, establishing a research program specifically dedicated to studying individual recognition and social intelligence in marine mammals. Luna herself became an ambassador for seal conservation without ever leaving her wild habitat. Her story appeared in children's books, educational films, and conservation campaigns. The distinctive crescent scar that had marked her trauma became a symbol of resilience and the possibility of connection across seemingly unbridgeable divides. Merchandise sales from officially licensed lunar-themed products generated ongoing funding for the Point Reyes Research Station and Marine Mammal Center rehabilitation efforts. But perhaps the most profound impact was personal. The thousands of letters, emails, and social media messages Sarah received from people whose perspectives on animals had fundamentally changed. Cancer patients who found hope in Luna's resilience. Veterans with PTSD who saw parallels to their own struggles with trust and connection. Children who became passionate about marine conservation. Teachers who used the story to discuss empathy, loyalty, and the kinds of relationships that transcend language and species. The years continued. 2017, 2018, 2019, Luna kept her pattern, returning to Sculptured Beach with the reliability of tides, waiting for Sarah with patience that seemed to exist outside normal time. She aged gracefully, developing the heavier build and grizzled appearance of a mature adult harbor seal. Her hunting skills were excellent. Tracking data showed she ranged across hundreds of miles of coastline, interacted normally with other seals, and lived a completely wild life, except for those regular returns to one specific beach for one specific reason. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic restricted human access to Point Reyes beaches, including Sculptured Beach. Sarah, teaching remotely and concerned about virus exposure during the early uncertain months, couldn't visit Luna for nearly 7 months, the second longest absence since their bond began. The remote cameras documented Luna's continued arrivals, her waiting periods extending longer, her departures seeming more reluctant. The research team worried about her stress levels, but also marveled at the consistency of her hope. When restrictions finally eased in late 2020 and Sarah made her first pandemic-era visit, Luna's reaction surpassed even the 2016 reunion. She not only swam to shore immediately, but remained in the shallows for over an hour, the longest sustained close proximity encounter ever documented. Dr. Sterling, reviewing the footage, noted something remarkable. Luna's vocalizations matched patterns recorded during the very first reunion in 2012, as if she had a specific Sarah greeting call that remained consistent across nearly a decade. The relationship's 10th anniversary in March 2021 was marked by a symposium at the Marine Mammal Conference in San Diego, where researchers from around the world presented findings inspired by or related to Luna's case. The event highlighted how one seal's loyalty had transformed an entire field's understanding of marine mammal cognition. Dr. Sterling, now considered a leading expert on pinniped social intelligence, largely because of his work with Luna, presented findings showing that harbor seals possess individual recognition abilities comparable to primates, can maintain social memories for at least a decade, and form voluntary cross-species bonds that persist despite lack of reinforcement or reward. Sarah, invited to speak at the symposium despite being technically outside her academic specialty, delivered a presentation that was more philosophical than scientific. Science gave us the tools to document and analyze what Luna does, she told the assembled researchers. But science still struggles to name what this is. We can say individual recognition and persistent site fidelity and cross-species social bonding. But those terms feel sterile. When you're standing on a beach watching a wild seal swim toward you year after year, waiting for you when you're absent, greeting you with joy when you return. If she were human, we'd call this friendship. We'd call it love. Why do we resist those words when the evidence of the emotion is right in front of us? The question resonated beyond the conference. Popular science publications picked up the theme. running articles titled "Do Animals Love?" and "The Seal Who Challenges Our Definition of Emotion." Philosophers joined the conversation, debating whether attributing human emotions to animals was anthropomorphism or simply acknowledging biological continuity. The consensus was shifting. Perhaps anthropomorphism wasn't the error. Perhaps the error was assuming human emotions were uniquely human in the first place. By 2022, Luna had been returning to Sculptured Beach for over 11 years. She was now approximately 13 years old, middle-aged for a harbor seal, with a potential lifespan extending to 25-30 years in ideal conditions. The research team began discussing difficult questions. What happens when Luna eventually reaches old age? What happens if Sarah, who was now in her late 30s, experiences life changes that make regular visits impossible? What would be Luna's response to permanent absence? Could a seal grieve? These questions became more urgent in early 2023 when Sarah accepted a prestigious research position at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts, across the continent from Sculptured Beach. The decision was agonizing. This was a career-defining opportunity, but it meant leaving Luna, ending a relationship that had defined more than a decade of both their lives. Sarah consulted with Dr. Sterling, Dr. Nakamura, and the broader research team. Could someone else visit Luna in her place? Would that provide continuity, or would it make things worse? The team decided on gradual transition. Sarah would visit less frequently over 6 months, while a small group of familiar researchers increased their presence, hoping Luna might transfer some attachment to a broader, familiar human category, rather than remaining fixated on one individual. The approach was unprecedented, the outcome uncertain. No one knew if it would work, or if trying to engineer the end of a cross-species friendship was ethical, possible, or cruel. Sarah's last scheduled California visit before her move east was planned for September 2023. The research team prepared to document what might be a final chapter, though everyone hoped it wouldn't be final, that somehow Luna would adapt, or that Sarah would find ways to return occasionally, or that nature would find solutions humans couldn't engineer. As of the most recent documented observation in 2024, Luna continues to return to Sculptured Beach. Sarah visits when she can, usually 2 to 3 times per year now, coordinating with research trips to California. The reunion pattern remains consistent. Luna's immediate recognition, her approach, the quiet time spent together before separation. The bond has survived distance, time, and every prediction that it would fade. Luna is now 15 years old, and the crescent scar on her neck, faded but still visible, remains a permanent marker of where this extraordinary relationship began. Dr. Sterling's longitudinal study, now spanning 13 years, has documented over 200 individual reunion events, creating the most comprehensive record of sustained cross-species bonding in wild marine mammals ever assembled. The data has fundamentally reshaped how scientists understand seal intelligence, memory, and emotional capacity. But more than that, Luna has reshaped how millions of people understand the inner lives of animals, proving that what we dismissed as instinct might often be choice, that what we called conditioning might actually be loyalty, and that memory and love aren't uniquely human treasures. Luna's story asks us to reconsider every boundary we've drawn between ourselves and other species. If a wild seal can wait years for one specific person, can remember across seasons and recognize across crowds, can demonstrate patience and hope and what looks unmistakably like joy at reunion, then perhaps we've been measuring animal consciousness with tools too crude to capture its depth. The scar Luna carries isn't just a mark of survival. It's a reminder that the connections we forge, even in brief moments of compassion, can echo far longer and deeper than we imagine. Some bonds once made simply refuse to break.